Bill O'Reilly to get his view on all that has happened this week. Bill, don't disappoint. Where would you like to start?
I'd like to start with me just taking over the whole program.
Well, that would be nice.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
You and Stu can go out for donuts.
Wait a minute.
And,
if you're serious, I'll make that deal right now.
Yeah, we can just spot you up and leave. If that's okay.
No, your viewer, your listeners,
They want donuts too.
They would hold it against me.
Yeah.
No, you start wherever you want, Beck. I mean, I just wrote a column of the day for BillO'Reilly.com on our pal Geraldo.
Oh, my gosh.
Insisting that the Molly Tibbetts story is just about a murder. Has nothing to do with illegal
Right.
immigration.
So I want to get to that. Let's save that. I want to get to that because I saw something on CNN that I just sent to you. Did you watch it?
I saw.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, so let's start with Cohen and Manafort.
Okay.
All right. What do you think?
So Manafort really didn't have much to do with the country as it stands now unless he will start to accuse the president of something. So if it's a standalone and he did what he did, obviously, he deserves to go to prison, and we sing him the Steam song, sha-na-na-na, hey, 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 goodbye. All right? So that's all.
Okay, wait.
Yeah.
Trump, he won't, apparently will not rule out pardoning him.
Yes.
I think that would be a gigantic mistake.
So do I.
Okay.
And it's amazing I'm agreeing with you, but I don't think that a man who cheats on his taxes at that level deserves a pardon. It's as simple as that. So, but the Manafort thing, we're not going to really have much to talk about until he does go to prison or he does not.
Yeah.
The Cohen thing is much more interesting and much more
it's connected to the president. It is connected, at least that one.
Yeah,
Manafort has what he was accused of, what he did was years before Trump. There's no connection. Bad guy goes to jail, end of story.
Yeah, but the only problem with the Cohen story is Robert Mueller and the U.S. Justice Department. That's what concerns me, not what Michael Cohen may or may not have done as far as silencing women who had affairs with Donald Trump. That doesn't seem to be a major situation to me. But it is clear that the U.S. Justice Department, under Attorney General Jeff Sessions, clear that they are allowing plea bargains to crimes in order to get their boss, President Trump. He's the boss of the Justice Department, all right? Sessions answers to him. So he's got a department that's basically saying, hey, we want to get you. We're going to do all this kind of stuff. And I say that because the campaign finance violations that Cohen is going to plead guilty to are BS. All right, it's crap. Nobody would be indicted on those things. Nobody would be charged with those things unless there is a check directly from the Trump for President campaign in the hands of one of these women. And we haven't seen any evidence of that at all. And Trump denies it, that he used campaign funds. So I don't understand why this is even taking place, why Michael Cohen was even charged with this.
This is the point that Alan Dershowitz is making. He's like, show me the crime. He said, just point it out in the book and I'll shut up. But there's no crime on the books.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Well, he pled guilty to a crime, right? So he pled guilty to something, and he also pled guilty to tax. It was also tax issues, though, too. It wasn't just campaign finance.
But that's aside, though.
Yes, it is.
The tax issues had nothing to do with Trump.
Right.
That's taxi medallion stuff in New York City. This is the only link to Cohen to Trump is paying off the women, and where did the money come from? If the money came from private funds, there's no crime. So why is this even happening?
So, Bill, if we find out, because they're saying they have additional evidence, including messages, but they're not clear about what it is yet. We don't know what the additional evidence is. If it comes out that the money came from the Trump campaign, routed through the Trump organization, would you say that that is a really serious issue?
Yes, of course. Yes, that would elevate it. But it doesn't make sense to indict somebody on a campaign finance charge and not put out that the reason we're indicting him is because it came from campaign money. Does that make any sense to anybody? Why would you hold that back?
Right. And Bill, one more thing on this before we move on from this particular topic. Do you think that we, as the media and us included in all of this, are focusing too much on Trump as it relates to this investigation? We all know that that's what they're after. But in reality, Mueller really did something wrong. Cohen, seemingly, with at least on the tax side, really did something wrong. And, the fact that a couple of high-ranking executives in this organization are going to prison is a significant development, even if it has nothing to do with Donald Trump.
Well, you said Mueller. You meant Manafort.
Manafort, sorry.
Look, the story doesn't have any importance to anybody unless the president's involved. All right, Manafort trying to get away with hiding money. Nobody cares about that. I'm glad the authorities got him. Cohen doing some sleazy thing with New York City taxi cabs and again, trying to hide money from the authorities. Good, he deserves to go to prison. You can't do that. However, once you get into a position where you're trying desperately, you're using the weight of the entire Justice Department paid for by the U.S. taxpayer, desperately trying to find something, anything, on a sitting president of the United States is disturbing, is it not?
It is, and the pressure that they're using is problematic, not just in this particular case, but throughout the justice system. If you had an honest media
in this country, the media would actually be defending Trump. The media would be saying, this isn't good for the country, and the Justice Department is going on this wild goose chase to try to get the president. Mueller has been 18 months and still hasn't produced one shred of evidence of Russian collusion. This is wrong. It's hurting all Americans. Put up or shut up. That's what an honest press would do. Instead, the national media is a lynch mob encouraging the expedition to bring down the president. So that's how screwed up our entire country is at this point.
Well, we would. What's frustrating is you say an honest media, but let's be completely honest. It's not just the media. If this was happening, if Hillary Clinton would have won, and the situation was the same, she paid hush money to a bunch of women to keep them quiet a couple of weeks before the election, for Bill Clinton, or maybe she was having an affair. I don't know. If it was the same story, we would all be up in arms and we would be demanding impeachment. And the media would be saying the exact opposite of what they're saying now. That's the problem.
I don't know I wouldn't be demanding impeachment.
I mean the general right, the general Fox News would be.
The Hillary haters would be, trying to put a noose around her neck. And this is what's wrong. I was talking to somebody last night, and they were lamenting they have nowhere to go on television to find out the news. They can't find out the news.
Nope.
Because whatever you tune in, that agency is going to either be trying to get Trump off or trying to put him in prison. And there's no in between. So any fact that may emerge isn't looked upon as a fact. It's, well, can we use it for or against him? And, again, that puts the country in dire trouble when its citizens can't get really what's happening. And that's what I'm trying to do on BillO'Reilly.com. I think you're trying to do it on the radio and on the Blaze. But it's rare. And it's getting very, very intense.
We just did an hour on the truth of what's happening in South Africa. And the truth is nothing really is happening yet. The seeds are there. The people are fanning the flames of it. But what's happening in South Africa now is there is an upswing with murder, but the upswing of violent crime all across the country, even black on black, whites on whites, is through the roof. I
did it yesterday, so I'm glad you took You took from my thing.
That's why we subscribe, so we can do some
Yeah,
research and then bring it to the radio.
BillO'Reilly.com yesterday. Again, Trump doesn't take the time to research the situation and tweets out something that's half true, but half of it isn't true. The one thing that you overlooked in your analysis that you just told me is that in South Africa it is clear that the government in place wants to take land. I mean, take it.
Oh, yeah. No, we covered that.
Yeah, we
who
did.
are a certain color.
Yeah.
White.
Right.
All right, and that has happened.
That's why I say they're planting the seeds, and they are watering those seeds. I mean, the new president of South Africa is clearly racist. He
believes that white people. He wants white people to leave the country, which they will. And he wants to steal their land. And Zimbabwe did the same thing, and look what happened to Zimbabwe. But in the process, if you've been to South Africa, and I have, you know that it is a country where many people live in rural areas that don't have any protection at all, no police protection, all right? And these murders of white farmers are happening at an increased rate because the criminals know they will not even be hunted, that they can go in and kill anybody they want and no one will look for them. And that story is explosive, but Americans don't care about what happens in South Africa.
So what I've seen is this really dangerous scenario of the president tweeting something, which what he tweeted was, hey, I've asked the Secretary of State to look into this.
Look into it.
Okay,
right.
you probably shouldn't say that. You should probably just go to his office and say, hey, I want you to look into this, and then tweet what you find. But what happened was he didn't tweet anything crazy. He said, hey, I want to look into this.
No, but he said it was happening. That was the problem. Because
okay.
It hasn't been passed.
You're right.
It hasn't been passed by the government.
You're right. So immediately the press, instead of taking a measured tone and saying, this is going around and,
he's a racist.
Yeah, he's a racist.
He's a racist for even bringing it up.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
And which only pushes people to believe. I mean, this is the worst case scenario on this, and I think it's going to play out this way if we don't back up and stop this nonsense. What's going to happen is because Donald Trump tweeted this and the press said, well, he's a crazy racist. When the Secretary of State comes back and says, no, that's not actually happening, the people have already chosen a side. You're either with Trump or you're with CNN. And if the Secretary of State comes back and says, no, here are the facts, they're going to blame it on the deep state. So, I mean, it just gets worse.
I don't even think that people are going to even pay attention to what's happening in South Africa. I think that basically many Americans, perhaps most, have tuned out of the whole thing now. Fox News ratings this week collapsed. You would think that with all of the stories involved and all of the intensity, that Fox News' ratings would be through the roof. That did not happen. They lost audience. And who gained? MSNBC gained, because all the Trump haters who want him out came in. They knew they weren't going to hear anything but, yeah, let's get him out. So they came into MSNBC. So, but the people who don't have any ideological craziness, they just didn't watch. They just said, I've had enough. I know I can't get the right story, so I'll go to a subscription service like BillO'Reilly.com, or I'll go to the Blaze, and I'll try to get what I can get out of there. But I know I'm not going to be served by the national press agencies. I mean, how sad is this?
It's depressing.
That's what's happening.
Bill, one quick question before we go to break. Do you think this Cohen, Manafort, this whole thing that's happened over the past week, is that going to have an immediate effect on Trump's approval rating either way?
I don't know about approval rating, but it will have an effect on the midterms unless Donald Trump regains momentum. So Donald Trump now is on the defensive, all right? I think that his crew is going to stay with him, and there are enough people that feel this is BS that they may approve of his job, so he might stay in the high 40s. But the momentum is clearly against Republicans now. And if the president wants to hold the House, he's got to regain that momentum.
Okay.
And illegal immigration is probably the way he's going to do it.
Okay. I want to talk to you about illegal immigration. I want to talk to you about impeachment if they do take the House, which sounds like you think that there is an increasing chance that that is absolutely going to happen. We'll talk to Bill O'Reilly, get his opinions on those things when we come back. Bill O'Reilly, what do you make of David Pecker from the National Enquirer getting immunity yesterday to speak to prosecutors? He apparently told prosecutors that of his knowledge of the payments to women. Also, sources said that Pecker provided investigators with the details about the payments Cohen made to the women.
Sources said, Beck.
I know.
Sources said. In order for the federal government to charge an American citizen with a crime, they've got to have enough evidence, all right, to go to a court and present a viable case, or they will be charged with malicious prosecution.
Sure.
So, if Cohen, when they raided his office, if they found evidence that he paid these women off, they had to corroborate that.
Right.
Therefore, there's only one person who could corroborate it.
Right.
That was Pecker. Okay?
But there still is no crime here unless it came from...
Don't get ahead of yourself. All right. So the FBI goes in there, and they sit around their little table, and they go, look, for whatever reason, we want to get Michael Cohen on campaign finance violations, but we can't do it with what we have from his office. We got to get somebody else to corroborate what he did. Who's the only person on earth that Michael Cohen did business with outside of Stormy Daniels' attorney?
Yeah, National Enquirer.
David Pecker. So they waltz into Pecker's office and they say, look, if you want to make it easy on yourself, you've got to tell us what happened, and we'll give you immunity because we got to back up our stuff that Cohen did something wrong in campaign finance. So the Pecker said, oh, yeah, okay, give me immunity. I'll tell you whatever you want to know. Now, that doesn't mean that
he has anything.
Yeah, doesn't mean that Pecker knew anything about campaign finance. All he knew is that Michael Cohen paid him.
Right.
That's all he knew. He might have known more. Maybe there was a big blaze on the check that said, this is from Donald Trump's campaign finance.
Right.
maybe.
Well,
maybe
there
is
on the
face of the check. I doubt it.
There is some evidence of a transfer of funds from the campaign in around that amount, and we're not sure if it's connected or not. But all I'm driving towards is this, if that exists, that proof. Yes. This is the same thing of Watergate, because Watergate, that break-in, was financed by the committee to reelect the president.
That's right.
That's what.
If they can prove that Trump knew campaign finance money was used to hush the women, then he's through.
Back in just a minute with Bill O'Reilly.
Facebook and Twitter and Microsoft and Apple and so on are not bound by the First Amendment. The First Amendment only applies to government, doesn't apply to corporations. So what's happening, I think, is that the left is enlisting those companies, especially Facebook and Twitter, to censor conservative voices on its behalf. And unfortunately, most political discussion nowadays happens on social media. And all the social media companies are run by liberals, a happy coincidence for the left. And so I think that's a very important thing that's going on in today's world. And we were talking about it on this program last week, and we got a call from a caller. And he said that he had written a song It's called I Love Your President. And he uploaded that song to YouTube, where he had a YouTube video channel. And 4 hours after he uploaded the song, his YouTube channel was canceled. And I found that an intriguing story. And I said, hey, do us a favor. Send us your song, okay? And he said, sure. So what we're going to do is we're going to play the song. It's by a guy named Buck Allen, and it's called I Love Your President. It's really a terrific song. I think it'll cheer you up if you're depressed by yesterday's news and today's news. It's a good antidote. We're going to play the song I Love Your President. Then we're going to go to a break. Buck, I teased this before the break, but I want to go over it again now real quickly. We were talking on this program last week about what I've called the left's effort to outsource censorship to the Silicon Valley tech companies like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And you called into the program last week and talked about a song that you had recorded and uploaded to YouTube, and that song was I Love Your President. And we talked about that a little bit, and I said, gee, that's kind of interesting. Can you send me the song? You said, sure. And you emailed the MP3 to me and to the show's producer, and I listened to it, and I thought, wow, that is a terrific song. I really like it.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And there's nothing in there that's offensive, is it?
I don't think so. Now the word that rhymes with NFL, but they don't kick you off YouTube for that one. So Buck, tell our listeners the story of that song, how it came to be, and what happened when you uploaded it to your YouTube video channel.
Okay, so someone added me on Facebook to a mostly liberal group, and I seen the group, so I just kind of chimed in. Everyone was watching. I hadn't typed anything or said anything. And they were going crazy and bashing conservatives and whatnot. And all I did was simply type in, I love your president. And they went bat poop crazy. Well, at that point in time, I'm a songwriter, so I was sort of obligated to write the song just to kind of get a little jab at them. And so I sat down, and within a couple of weeks, I had the song completed, went in the studio, recorded it. And
can I just stop you there for a second, Buck? Because you got a real job, right? You do this as a hobby for fun, as a sideline.
Correct.
And so the song I think is really well performed and recorded. Do you sing, play the guitar? You do the whole thing?
Yes. Well, I didn't play all the instruments. I have a producer that's in Houma, Louisiana, about 3.5 hours away, which he is a liberal. And you know what? We work quite well together because we're not all caught up in the politics, the craziness.
So okay, so that's basically you, although a little help on some of the instruments. So tell the rest of the story, Buck.
All right. So we put the song out there, and because you and I talked about campaigning or campaigns. So when you put the song out there, you want to give it a good boost. So I boosted it on Facebook for $100 for 5 days, did the same exact thing on Twitter. And you know as well as I do, within 24 hours, $20 per day, you're getting quite a few engagements at that point. I got 4 total engagements. Then I uploaded a video to YouTube on my songwriter account. Within 4 hours, the entire account was terminated, and I can't get any reason why. On Facebook, people from my friends will share the song onto their pages, and it will disappear off of their pages. Last night, anything to do with this song in a group on Twitter that for my state of Mississippi absolutely wouldn't even post. All other aspects of Twitter working perfectly fine for me up until it comes to promoting this song and being on the show this morning.
So we're talking about a couple different things here with different social media platforms. And what happened on Facebook and Twitter sounds to me like it could be shadow banning. So, for example, Prager University came out just within the last couple of days and said that they had realized that the last 3 Facebook videos that they had put up, nobody had seen. They didn't appear on anybody's timeline, and there was no notice to them, no apparent reason. But they they apparently were being shadow banned by Facebook, and they complained to Facebook. They put out a press release and so on. Facebook looked into it and said, "Oh, sorry, that was a mistake." And but for some reason, the mistakes always keep happening to conservatives. They never seem to happen to liberals. But I want to talk about YouTube specifically here, Buck, because so I take it you had anyway a songwriter account on YouTube. Is that right? And you'd uploaded other songs to YouTube?
Yes. I had two accounts. I had a songwriter account and a personal account. And the songwriter account, within 4 hours of me posting the video, the entire account was terminated. And I can't get any reason why.
Had you posted prior videos to the songwriter account, or was this the first one?
No, I had posted other videos on the account.
All right, so you had an active account with YouTube, a songwriter account. You're obviously in good standing. It's not like you have to pay them or anything, right? I assume that's not a...
Right. No.
So you've got a YouTube account like I don't know how many millions, if not billions, of other people. I mean, there's I've got them, everybody's got them. And you've uploaded songs in the past, no problem. And now you upload a song called I Love Your President. We just heard it. We played the first half before the break, second half after the break. It's great. It's catchy. It's entertaining. It's kind of funny. And it's a sentiment that I'll tell you, most of the people listening to this program absolutely agree with. You upload I Love Your President to YouTube, and within 4 hours, your account is canceled?
Terminated. That was the verbiage that they used. When you would click on any video that was previously there, this account has been terminated. That's what it said.
Did you ever get any explanation from YouTube as to why they terminated your songwriter account?
No, not at all. No, I can't even get anybody to talk to me. And the whole thing is, and when it comes to Facebook and Twitter, I think that probably hurts a little more. I'm not a rich man by any means. I have another song coming out called Freedom's Not Free, where 100% of the proceeds are going to disabled veterans. And it's very important for me to have the platform, such as YouTube and the Twitter, to get it out there to be able to assist the disabled veterans. And at this point, the way that they're treating folks like myself, it's not just hurting me or you or my followers. At this point, it's going to be hurting the disabled veterans and not helping them the way that we really should.
Well, we're talking with Buck Allen, author of I Love Your President, as well as other songs. Buck, if you send me your other songs like the one you just mentioned, I'll certainly do what I can to give them some circulation. This whole issue of the Silicon Valley tech companies acting on behalf of liberals and the Democratic Party to censor conservatives, huge issue. We'll be right back with Ann Coulter. We are expecting to be joined momentarily by Ann Coulter. I want to talk about her brand new book, Resistance is Futile, How the Trump-Hating Left Lost Its Collective Mind. And, of course, I'm anxious to get Ann Coulter's take on yesterday's legal developments with the conviction of Paul Manafort and the guilty plea by Michael Cohen. And so we're trying to get Ann on the phone right now, and we will go to her as soon as we are able to make that connection. We've been spending a good part of the program today talking about these recent legal developments, and I guess my message to people in our audience who are fans of President Trump, and by the way, that doesn't necessarily mean that you approve of the apparent fact that Michael Cohen paid a couple of women on the president's behalf to keep quiet about whatever liaison they may have had with him. I think that most of those who voted for Donald Trump didn't do so on the mistaken belief that he was a choir boy. I think they voted for Donald Trump in the correct belief that he would stand up for America, that he would do his best to drain the swamp, and that he would try to get the United States economy moving again after 8 years in the doldrums under Barack Obama. And I think President Trump has delivered on those campaign promises. The economy is booming. He's representing the United States effectively, I think, in trade negotiations with other countries. He is standing up to adversaries like Russia and Iran and North Korea in a way that the Obama administration did not do. And he is sticking up for America's friends like Israel in a way that the Barack Obama administration did not do. So most of us are very happy with the things that Donald Trump has done as president. The deregulation, one of the main reasons why the economy is booming, along with the tax cuts, is that President Trump has used his executive authority to cut back on regulations, and that takes the shackles off companies. It takes the shackles off the U.S. economy, and we're seeing the results in a 4% plus GDP growth rate, in record low unemployment for minorities, for young people, for women. So it's a terrific record. The Democrats don't want to talk about Trump's record. They don't want to talk about why is it that all of a sudden economic growth is doubled now that we've got Barack Obama out of office and Donald Trump in office. That is a question that you will not hear Democrats want to address. And so the news these days is all about distraction. It's all about filling up the headlines with something other than the news stories that reflect well on the president, and also the news stories that reflect poorly on the Democrats. For example, the story of poor Molly Tibbetts, the girl from Iowa that we now know was murdered by an illegal immigrant. Referred to by a guest on MSNBC as a girl from Iowa that Fox News is talking about. That's how an MSNBC guest described poor Molly Tibbetts. Well, the Democrats don't want those stories in the headlines. They don't want the economic news in the headlines. They don't want the successes that President Trump is having in his trade negotiations in the headlines. They don't want his standing up to the mullahs in Iran or Kim in North Korea or Putin in Russia. They don't want those things in the headlines. So instead, we get nonsense stories like Paul Manafort and Michael Cohen. We are joined now by the great Ann Coulter. Ann, thanks for being on the program.
Thank you for having me. Author of Resistance is Futile that came out yesterday.
And you beat me to it. But before we start talking about your brand new book, Resistance is Futile, How the Trump-Hating Left Lost Its Collective Mind, I got to ask you, what's your take on the legal news yesterday, Paul Manafort and Michael Cohen?
Well, luckily I write about it in Resistance is Futile, and everything I said is absolutely applicable.